Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. When I was a lad in first grade, the teacher would be out of the room. Teachers were allowed to be out of the room at times back then. And as she was coming back to the room from the office, one of the students would run to the door and he'd say, "The teacher's coming, the teacher's coming." And apparently that used to bother the teacher. So at one point she told the class, "I don't want anybody to do that. Quit doing it. The next person who does that is going to get suspended, get some kind of a write-up, get sent to the principal's office." I think that's what they did back in those days. And so the next day, I had never done it before, but I went to the door, and as she was coming, I yelled out, "The teacher's coming, the teacher's coming." And of course, I got sent to the principal's office. There is a booktuber who tells people that it is really bad to be drinking on camera. And I never drank on camera before I heard about that, but well, since then it's kind of stuck in there and I'm doing the bad thing now. So what is bad is, of course, all relative depending on one's point of view. We are living at a time when to criticize or to raise concerns about a genocide is considered a bad thing, depending on one's political stance. So, Melinda at A Web of Stories has invented a new tag, the "It Isn't That Bad" tag, in which she offers up 10 prompts of things which she has heard it bandied about on BookTube that they are bad things to do. And she has arrived at the conclusion that they are not really all that bad. So, I was not tagged by anybody to do this tag, and Melinda gave me permission. She said, "If anybody out there watching this tag feels like doing it, please do the tag." So I feel that if I do the tag, I have permission, so it is not a bad thing. Now, were I to do this tag without having gotten that permission, would it have been a bad thing? So, prompt number 1, do you dog ear your books? No, I don't. Contrary to the sentiment expressed by Melinda a couple of times, I don't 100%, especially after reading Braiding Sweetgrass, I don't 100% take the standpoint that this book is your property, do what you will with it. Now I think, well, and especially at my age at this point, I think there is a likelihood that this book is going to survive me. And so my view now is respect the things that are around you, respect the book, respect it enough, respect the next person that might be looking at the book. So that is not to say that if you have a book and you decide to bend the page or any of these other things that I am going to come down upon you like a ton of bricks. I am just reporting my own feeling about things. Do you annotate your books is number 2. And no, as a rule, I do not. I have experimented with it here and there throughout my life. And most recently, last year, I was annotating books to be able to refer back to bad grammar, bad thinking, annoying repetitions and so forth that I found in books just because I was annoyed. I did not respect those books. But as a rule, no, I do not annotate my books. I have been occasionally, but not nearly as occasionally as you might expect, been inclined to put a little bookmark or a little tabby of some sort to indicate a page, but generally speaking, I cannot find little tabbies. And if I've put those little bookmarks throughout the book, then 5 years later when I come across the book, I'll see them and pull them all out. Unless they're indicating a particular poem or other that I want to be able to keep referring to. Number 3, do you roll covers or break spines when you read? As a rule, again, I do not roll covers. And Melinda gave a good example. So you take a book, and when you're reading it, you just roll it back like this. I don't see any great harm. I would not attempt it with a hardback, and I would not attempt it with your Kindle. But other than that, if you do that, it doesn't strike me as a great sin. I don't like to come across books that have covers that are really curled up, but it's not a big deal. And as far as breaking spines, I try not to. When I was young, my books had the appearance of being unread, even though they had been read. Well, I no longer am able to make that kind of a boast. My books, after I've had my hands on them, they definitely show the appearance of having been read. So there will be corners mucked up and so forth. I try, but I take a little bit of the philosophy from Melinda. It's not that bad, really. She said there are a lot of things we are told we shouldn't do as readers, and honestly, those things really aren't bad. Well, as I say, bad is a relative term in most cases. Number 4, do you listen to something while you read? And no, I do not. It is not that I have an aversion to it. I am not much of a listener to things. There have been times in the past when I was obsessed with some music perhaps, and I was listening to music all the time, and then I would read a book or look at a book while the music was playing in the background. It didn't bother me, but I'm not a person who generally listens to music, and even as far as classical music, but as far as any kind of music, I have grown to the point where I would rather hear music performed live than a recording of it. And if you want to take that philosophy even further, you can say I might well prefer to sing a song than listen to a pre-recorded song. Why not? But if listening to music while you read or listening to something else, Melinda was talking about how some people are able to listen to podcasts while they read. More power to you. If you divide your focus in that way, there may be is that the word? Bad repercussions, but that is not for me to say. That would be on you regardless. So, number 5, do you read in the bathroom? No, I do not. And it has taken me a long time to figure out that I do not, because almost inevitably, if I am reading something and then the urge comes over me, I will carry the book into the bathroom. And it has taken just untold numbers of experiences with that to realize that once I step into the bathroom, I do not read. Number 1, I don't want the book damaged by water, and number 2, I am usually busy doing something else. I suppose if I were going like this, well, let's not get into the details, okay? So I do not read in the bathroom. I've never really understood people who do, but I must confess, some people, for biological reasons, spend a lot more time in the bathroom than would be my want. So, to each their own. Number 6, do you read in water such as in the bathtub, in a pool, etc.? No, not because I have any aspersions to cast against that, but I seldom find myself in water. Were I to be in water, I doubt I would have a book handy. So I do not do that. Now, number 7, do you DNF? No, absolutely not. I never DNF a book. DNF is BookTube for do not finish. What's that? Oh. Well, maybe sometimes I'll DNF a book. I try not to. It's my goal. I've been for 2.5 years trying to become a better reader, and part of that project has been not to DNF books, but to follow it through to the bitter end. And in this case, it was a little too bitter. But in the past, I was such a poor reader that DNFing was my standard practice. And recently, I tried to pick up a book that I DNF'd probably 5 years ago and found that I just could not get back into it. I think partly because the world described in this book feels like a world that I know so well. My mother was a child of the Depression and told us her stories, and so the world described therein is very familiar to me. I was hoping that I could, with my renewed bookish strength, just pick up where I left off and finish it. But I tried and I failed. So it is staying in the DNF pile for now. Number 8, do you ever read ahead or skip to the end of a book? Generally, no. I will flip ahead just to see how long the book is. I inevitably will wind up reading a sentence or two, just that my eye catches a glimpse of, but I try not to read ahead. But I am sure that there are mitigating circumstances, so I would not make a hard, fast rule of that. When we were young, my sister would read books in different ways. So one time she would just read only the odd numbered pages, that kind of thing. And I think if that's the kind of reading style you prefer, go ahead with it. I'm reading right now the Olympic Games by Finlay and Pleckett. And one thing about Finlay's books is that the illustrations, the plates as they would be called, are always very germane. Most books, they're just sort of window dressing. But in a book by Finlay, if there's a plate, it's important, it figures in. And for this book, I made the conscious decision not to read every single plate unless I feel like doing it. Is that a bad thing? It might be a bad thing. It may count thereby for me not having read the book completely when I finish it. But that is a choice I made. Number 9, are you book polygamous, i.e. read more than one book at a time? Or let me use the lingo of a good friend of mine and say, are you book polyamorous? And indeed I am. I have been reading 4 books at a time lately. It's been working very well for me. You're not always in the mood for one book or the other, and it's good to have multiple options on hand. Number 10, do you own more books than bookshelf space? Yes, indeed, I do. That's a pretty common malady among booktubers. I recall hearing long ago that Stephen King solved this dilemma by purchasing the house next door to his and turning it into his library. So that would be my preferred solution, but I don't have a house next door. There's a building next door, and I suppose that would work as well, but for the time being, we have more books than we have space for. There are books in boxes in the basement. Books are in double layers. Books are piled on top of books. And there is a bit of a loggerheads situation going on around here between members of this household as to how many books we need to have in these various locations. So it is an area of disquietude here. And those are the 10 prompts. I also saw this at Book Chat with Pat, and I believe she added an 11th, which was tag some people. I am not going to tag anybody since I, at this time, was not tagged. It is possible somebody will tag me. I occasionally get tagged, and recently I had a couple of tags that I was looking forward to doing, and then they just, life got out of control for me for a bit, and so I wound up not completing those tags. But if you feel like doing this tag, I urge you to check out the original video, and I would assume that Melinda extends her permission to you as well, so you do not have to feel bad about it. And I believe that Pat also made such a blanket offer to any of her viewers. So I will put links to these videos in the comment box, and I will let the topic rest at this point. Thank you for stopping by my channel.